Hello and welcome to Design Decoded. My name is Tilisha Harrington. I am assistant designer to Miss Jerry Washington, or Boss Lady as I love to call her. So today we are going to decode this lovely notion. It's common amongst consumers, and it essentially is somewhat of a mentality where designers are omniscient. They are all-knowing, all-encompassing. That means that they just have this full-scale knowledge of all things, even down to plumbing, electrical. They have such an understanding of all things that me as a client, I can step back and I can completely hand this over to you. As a designer, you will take care of everything without hearing my needs, my wants, my likes and dislikes. And so that's what we're going to break down today. We're going to discuss sort of what the collaborative process looks like and what the designer-client relationship looks like. Okay, so let's get started. So what is the ideal client designer relationship for you?
For me, the ideal client designer relationship is open communication at all times. I like to be honest and open, and I like to be able to be honest with my client and open, because where there is no communication, there's where the lines kind of fall apart.
Right.
And then your client assume, right? So for me, if something is going wrong, like let's say a client and we ordered a furniture piece that is a custom piece. It says that the delivery will be in 3 weeks, right? I give my client the date of when this sofa is going to be there.
Right.
I got a call from my rep saying, hey, we have a delay in shipping. The furniture piece is not going to be there on time.
Right.
It is my responsibility to be able to call my client and say, hey, we had a little mishap on the delivery side. This has nothing to do with leaving the factory, the process.
Right.
It was built on time. Now the delivery company has a delay. It happens. Right? So we would want our client to know that as soon as we get that information, listen, this is what happened. This is the case. We know that we said it was going to be there 3 weeks. Now we're pushed out to 4 weeks. And I would like to know that I can reiterate that to my client and not feel like, hey, I am pressed for the time that I give my client for this thing to be delivered. And now I can't communicate that to them because now it's delayed.
Right.
So that open communication, that ability to talk to your client and have that conversation when something happens, and to know absolutely the tougher ones that we kind of avoid having, because of course we know that we already said this is the deadline.
That's true.
So for me, that open communication is key. It really is. And the honesty and the trust is really, really key. We want our clients to be able to trust us as much as we trust them.
So what advice would you give just the public, the community in general, going into the creative process? What mindset do you think they should embrace? Like, what encouragement could you give them?
Going into the creative process with a consumer, with a potential client. Listen, every client is different, and we all know this. We are in business. There is not ever going to be the same situation, right? You're never going to meet the same person. You might meet a consumer who, when you signed on at the point in time, their relationship, family, everything was going great. Within the process, something happens
Right.
life-threatening, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden, everything that you do becomes a problem. You can never do nothing right. Right?
That's a good
Right.
one, guys.
So, but what I'm saying to you is, for me, I would just say, whatever you do, do it with integrity. Go into it with integrity. If
I
you
second
are, yes, if you are going into a consultation and this is a potential client, you go in there knowing that, hey, I'm going to go in there as honest and trustworthy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to lay everything on the table in the beginning. And if for whatever reason something happens along the way, you, as the designer as well, have to be sympathetic towards your potential client
Right.
as well, because life doesn't just change for you, it changes for everybody else.
That's true.
Right? So we have to be, we have to also put on our family hat,
Mm-hmm.
not own all business, but we have to be sympathetic to the needs of the
That's true.
client as
That's
well.
very true.
So I would say just be honest, just be open, go in there with integrity, and if this is how you run your business, I mean, you're good.
Right. That's good advice, guys.
Yeah.
I'd also like to add that a lot of people generally have this idea that it's one of those circumstances where I go into a designer meeting and let's just say I hate the color green. That communication for you might seem just so far stretched, because so far what she showed you as far as the presentation is, okay, I'm not seeing much green. I love blue. I see tons of blue. I'm so for it. But then when it comes to accessorizing or just certain accents, all of a sudden there's that pool of green. And if you don't communicate these things prior to, it becomes an issue for you later. So as a client or someone who's seeking out any form of professional assistance with really any trade, you have to communicate. I don't like rough edges. I prefer rounded edges for my child needs because I have a ton of children, and you know, no one wants them to poke an eye out or anything like that. So you have to really be able to, as a client, speak up. And that doesn't mean necessarily in a negative tone. Again, like Derry said, it's so idealistic for a designer to be introduced to a client who is vocal but poised. And that really is key, because there's
That
a
right
lot
there.
of impatience when it comes to consumerism.
Yeah, that right there is important too.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to remember, because when we started this discussion, right, the topic is, do we know of any consumer or clients or potential clients
Mhm.
that things that they should just hand the project to us and totally pull themselves out of it
Right.
and give you full control? And to me, I would say it is key for a client to be involved in the process.
Right.
Because we have a lot of different points and a lot of different issues and a lot of things that we have to cover.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know their lifestyle unless they are involved. I
That's true.
need to know, what are you using this room for?
Mm-hmm.
What do you see the outcome? What would you like to see in the outcome of this room?
Right.
Do you have pets? Do you have kids? Are you going to be entertaining? You know?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the colors that you like?
Right.
And I think if a consumer totally hands that control over to designer to actually do everything themselves without being involved, that is a liability. It is a touchy subject and issue, and I don't think that I've ever had anybody at all as a client that ever wanted that, nor should they never want to. Right? Because the way that we know exactly what this process and the outcome of this project would be is by their input.
That is so true.
Right? It's by their input.
Right.
They have to have input. And if any designer said, hey, I don't need your input, I have everything covered, you told me what you want, I got it, this is it, that is crazy. Yeah, it is crazy.
So going to that, if the shoe is on the other foot, right, and you were the client and you went in to meet with a tradesperson or even just into your local retail shop, and they impress this idea that because I hold the position and I hold credibility, I don't need your input. How would you as a client approach that? How do you get vocal and, you know, express that?
Well, first of all, how would you know what to deliver if I don't have an input?
Right. That's
right?
true.
Me telling you, hey, I would like to purchase a barn door. There are tons of barn doors out there.
Absolutely.
Different styles,
Mm-hmm.
okay? Different colors, different textures. And I, as the consumer going into, let's say, one of the public places, Lowe's, and I go into this place to purchase a door, and I now become the consumer. And I say, I would like to purchase a barn door. I give the control all up to you. Whatever you choose, whatever your decision is, that's what we're going to go with.
Mm-hmm.
How does this person know what I'm using this door for,
Right.
where I'm using it,
Right.
in what context,
Right.
right? So I don't believe that they can be able to help me fully if I don't have some kind of input.
Right. So you would be saying essentially that customer care is really depending on that communication between
The
you,
consumer.
the professional, and the
Absolutely.
consumer. So when you are seeking out a designer, you really have to keep that in mind, that because we often deal with subcontractors, because we are constantly going to and fro, meeting with reps, contacting a buttload of people to create something really special, you have to consider the fact that once we go into that role of, I have to call my rep because I want to order something, I have to go see about this door at this hardware shop, we then become clients. We then become clients
Absolutely.
of that tradesperson, and when we are going into that, we are in the same exact shoes and the same exact boat as you. So
Absolutely.
when you are approaching a designer and you know you are getting a feel for them, this is why last week we touched on how important it is to have that consultation, to have a meet and greet, and to really vet out these designers, is to avoid that feeling of, oh, I really can't speak up here. Because in actuality, if you're a designer, you are also a client. And if you're a client, you definitely know how it feels to be in the limbo of the design process, of the creative process, and of the lovely waiting game to receive furniture, to finally see something come into fruition. So for anyone who's kind of on the fence about designers in general, concerning that regard of, oh, they're gonna have this very odd approach of kicking me out, or oh, they're gonna be so credible that I can just throw it to them and it's above me now. You don't have to think that way. just really take time to approach it in a situation where you understand that we are here to support you and to assist you as best that we can. And with that, that takes a lot of, I would say, almost like a counselor. It takes a lot of that communication that it really is important.
I would also say to the consumers, anyone who is searching for a designer, or even have any idea of, looking for any trades person to do any type of work, and this is business, right? It's in the business field, but please be mindful that when you actually do that first initial interview, you want to make sure that you ask the right questions. Right? You want to make sure if there's something on your heart, on your mind, you get it out. There's nothing that offends anyone, because like I said, being open and honest from the start is key. It really is. And if I know that my client said to me from the get, hey, I don't like blue. Okay? That is not a color that I want to see in my home. Why would I put blue into my client's home if this is a color that she absolutely hates? Right? So ask the right questions. Okay? Some consumers are very intimidated, and we have experienced it ourselves being clients. Going into a store or something to do a purchase. Some people can be very intimidated, right? And because for the simple reason that salesperson comes off very strong. And right there you're like, your guard goes up. And you're like, you don't want to ask another question. And then you continue with the sale. And then after the sale, you realize, hey, I don't really like what I bought. But then realize you're so far into it that, hey, can I return this? Can I? So it's important, it's key to ask the right questions. Get your questions answered from the initial consultation. And I'm telling you, it's key. It really is key. Make sure that you get your point across.
No, that's total sense.
Because some people can say, I don't like the color navy blue. There's all shades of blue, right? There's all shades of blue. But I like this color blue here. This baby blue could be something that, but I don't like navy. So they actually not saying they don't like blue. They just probably don't like the shade of this blue.
And that's where designers come in. Just, you have to be able to really vet to seek that information out, so that you're ensuring that you're producing the greatest design that you can for that particular client. If they do, for instance, say, I'm not a fan of blue. Okay, well, are there certain variations of blue? There are tons of hues to choose from.
Absolutely.
And, I've had plenty of times where I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really like this color. Regarding fashion, not necessarily design, but I'll be like, oh, I don't really like this color on me. But then I go and I find a variation of this color, and I love it on me, and I'm like, what? Yes. And that could very well be your client. They could very well be like, I don't know about that, right? Like, I don't want that. But then all of a sudden you bring out on a certain material or even textures.
Wow. That right there.
Make a difference.
That right there. Because I can tell you how many times I've had a client that says, hey, I don't like this. I don't think this would look good in this setting. And I have actually brought that same color in a texture or pattern or something, and it changes the whole game.
Right.
Trust me when I tell you, at that design presentation, it is key.
Right.
There is where you want to bring out all that different texture, tones, hues, because I'm telling you, it could be just that one shade that they don't want to see.
That's true. That's
So
true. So can you bring our audience through you've touched on different terminology here, such as consultation and presentation process. So can you take them through Tranquil's creative process and what that looks like from beginning to end, as far as that designer-client relationship, how communication really plays a role in that?
So the key thing is we have different steps that we take when we start the process.
Right.
The first initial step is the 30-minute free phone call. Not much, well, I wouldn't say a lot of people do the 30-minute free phone call. They do call to inquire about the services, but some people do sign up online, and we have it online, guys, on the website www.tranquil-designs.com. You can go on there and you can schedule a 30-minute free phone call. That gives you, the consumer, an ability to talk to the designer over the phone, just to get to know them. And I am getting to know you as well. Because we are not always a match.
That's a good point.
And that 30-minute can give you the opportunity to get to feel out that designer as well. The designer feels you out as well.
Right.
Not everybody's your client, and not everybody is your designer.
That's true.
So after that process, we can tell within that 30 minutes if we want to move forward with a consultation. But I would like to book a consultation, right? We have our consultation as well, which is 2 hours. It's $297 plus tax. And that process is key, because sometimes I can leave a consultation, and if you decide, hey, I don't have the budget for this project, there's key things that you get, information that you get, that you can do stuff yourself. You can do little things yourself. Right. So do not rule out the consultation at all. So at the consultation, we'll walk through the client's home and walk through with the client, and they're gonna take us through the process, the place, to see exactly what rooms they are thinking about getting done. And we walk through some of the ideas, verbally, and tell them what we see could happen in each room that they are showing us. And then we sit with them and we talk about budget, because budget for me is key. Everyone should have a budget.
Yes.
When I hear someone says, I don't have a budget, that is not a good start.
You have monopoly money.
Right. You have to have a budget. Everybody has that. We have lifestyles, right? We have bills.
Yes.
Okay. We have kids. We have college fund. We have everything that we so everybody should have a budget. You have to start somewhere.
Highly recommended.
Right. And it's up to me as the designer. I do a follow-up in 3 to 5 days.
Right.
When I get back to my office, I put the numbers together, and if I think that, hey, you can get something like this within that budget, I will let you know. If it's not realistic, I will let you know at the point in time, hey, I know we spoke about this and we spoke about this, maybe you want to start here because this is within that budget that you feel comfortable with. And then if they say, okay, fine, let's move on, then we go into the design presentation.
Okay.
Right? So that means I send the contract, they sign off on it, and then we meet 5 days after into the design presentation, where that is the best thing for me. I don't know if every designer, where you can show them exactly the pieces that you have chosen.
Right.
Based on the conversation and the information that you have gotten on the consultation. And you get together a mood board, and you put together a color palette, where you get, their colors in there, their material for their sofas in there, the sofa style, the chair style, everything, the rug, the drapes, Most of the time I don't do accessories at that design presentation.
Right.
Maybe a few, but not all, because accessories is something that comes like the icing on the cake. Okay, like the jewelry.
Sprinkles.
Right. So I might see something at that point in time that I love, and then when I get to that part of accessorizing your home,
Mm-hmm.
I see something else that might work.
Right.
Right? So we leave that later down in the process.
Okay.
But then we do the design presentation. You get to look at the pieces that we have chose, and you do not have to sign off on those pieces right away. If it is that I do a design presentation and you say you had a day or two to think about it, today I just don't feel these pieces. I just don't feel it's something that, works within our home. Don't be afraid to say that there and then.
That's that communication, guys.
Yeah, because we need to know prior. So then I revisit, and I go and I look for things that you say you want to see in your space. Hey, Derry, it's too modern. I'm looking for more of a French country kind of look, or I'm looking for more farmhouse contemporary,
Right.
Then I go back and I revisit, I revise, and then I send them that option.
Right.
Right? It does not, to the consumers, it does not, and it should not hurt a designer's feelings if you do not like a piece that they have chosen.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have, this is not about at the design presentation that once I present, this is exactly what you have to lock into.
Right.
That is not it.
That's a good point.
So at that time, it is important and it's key for you to say, hey, love everything else, but I'm not feeling that chair.
Right.
Love everything else, but I'm not feeling that rug.
Mm-hmm.
I love everything else, but I'm not feeling the sofa. So maybe the lighting is not something that you really, can I see some other options?
Right. So how often do you feel like you come across
A lot of
circumstances
times.
like
A
that?
lot of times
Okay.
we do. Because like I said, you may think, hey, when you discuss, you go on your consultation and you have this discussion with the client, you may think at that point in time, I get it. You said you want modern. We look at the place, it's contemporary, a little, probably transitional.
Mm-hmm.
You can mix design styles.
Right.
And you said, okay, I know the perfect piece. But to you, that might be the perfect piece, but to that client, that might not be a piece that they see for themselves.
That's
so it's
true.
not about us. When it's designing, it's not about us. It's about the client,
That's so true.
right?
Mm-hmm. And coming out of design school, a lot of students, I notice, have a strong tendency because, classes are structured in this set of, oh, there's no budget. This is the dream world, right? This is the ideal world that we can live in. But essentially, there's a lot of, there's no budget. So it's fair game. It's just like, get creative, do whatever you want to do.
Yes.
And we get to that point where, as we're practicing through projects, you start to notice your personal style, which is one thing, but you also have a strong tendency to remove yourself from the desires of others.
So I can't answer that question as far as a minimum budget for a client. I can answer that when I see the scope of the work. So it depends, to answer your question, it depends on the scope of the work.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we go according to budget.
No, that's a really good point.
Yeah. Because I can say, hey, I don't work with anything less than $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have a client who has everything, all their big pieces, all their major pieces, everything, and all they want really is a style out.
Right. So getting to that, even, would you classify yourself as a stylist as well?
I don't classify myself as a stylist. I'm an interior designer who it comes with it comes with your work, right? That accessorizing at the end of it being the icing on the cake is part of the process.
Right.
That is the most exciting part for me, though, because
No, same.
yeah, it is, because it's so crazy how the room will look just with the furniture pieces in there, the big pieces in there, and when you bring the accessories in, I think that makes the design,
Right.
because you get to layer. You get to put layers on there,
Right.
textures. You get to go at it, and that's why when it comes to any project that I'm doing, I go shopping for the accessories, because there's where my mind start going, like what I want to see to kind of bring that place fully together.
Right.
And it might not be what the client see
Mm-hmm.
at the time,
That's true.
but once you put it together, they would be like, I would never thought to put this with this, or I would never
Right.
thought to put that with that, you know.
Right.
I would have never mixed those two colors, but it looks awesome, you know. So that is where I get to be creative at the styling
I
process.
agree.
So I'm not a stylist, I'm an interior designer, but styling comes with
It just comes with the
yeah,
territory.
it comes with the territory.
Right.
That's what I say.
Right. And there have been designers that separate those two things, in the sense where there are a lot of designers that will hire someone to come in and stylize their works for
And
the
they're called
benefit.
stagers.
Right.
So there are stages, and we listen. I give them their props.
Right.
You know, stagers are great at what they do. They like I said, that's fun work for them. That icing on the cake is really fun. You know, our process is more in depth and detailed, because we take a room and transition it from drab to fab.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
They come in and they just take that room that is already put together and just make the shine.
Right.
Right?
The little
Yeah.
sparkle
That's
on
yeah. So
yeah.
I love what they do. I really do love what they do. But like I said, we as designers, we do it all.
That's so true.
Yeah, we
That is
are.
very true.
We do. So I don't know if Kimberly got that answer. But yeah, Kimberly, it depends on the scope of the work. That's how we determine the budget.
But should you want to venture into that, feel free to contact this lovely lady here. But yes, getting down to kind of a slower point, I just want to touch on a few things that we've gone over so we can just lay out some tips and tricks for you guys so that you can better assist yourselves in any aspect of the design process that you're looking forward to. So getting down to first point, being hands-off is no fun, right? When you were in kindergarten and you saw Play-Doh, you just went right in there. So, same deal, okay? Always, always, always have a team player mentality, no matter what side of the fence you're on, regarding things of any kind with creative processes. As long as you are putting your finances into something and your time, because in the words of Nicole, time is a commodity.
It is.
You for sure have to take into account that why would I put in all this time, effort, and finance, right? Even the time to just produce the finances that you've saved for the project alone. Why would you put all of that into something that you cannot say that you were truly a part of? And that has a lot of importance.
But to touch on that that as well, it is key to get the outcome that you need
Absolutely.
in that process as well.
Absolutely.
So whatever outcome you're looking for, you got to be part of the process.
You have to have a vision going into these things. It's definitely not something you tread lightly on. Aw. Yes, I'm glad we could answer, Kimberly.
Yes, Kimberly. Let's see. Kimberly said, okay. Yeah, and that is so true, Kimberly. Like we said, they always feel that it's so financially unattainable.
Right.
Right? We have had that. I have had experience with that where people would say, consumers, potential clients would say, hey, I want to have an interior designer, but I can't afford one.
Right.
Right? Misconception again.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know you can afford one if you don't schedule a consultation to find out? Right? That's your first step. I know that there are some designers that only work with a certain budget.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. We all work differently. And like I said last week, we all are striving for the same thing in our business. I mean, I don't know, but I know that, we all are trying to excel in our business. We all have goals. Yes, right? But I would say that the only way you would know if you cannot afford a designer is to get a consultation. That's the only way that you would know if you can't afford them.
Right.
Because what you might think you can't afford, right, might be just the opposite.
That is true.
Because you might say, hey, my friend hired an interior designer and it costs this much. And I don't have that type of money, but your scope of work might not be what her scope of work was. So please contact a designer. Schedule a consultation. Find out. Don't assume.
That is very true. Design is not necessarily a one-size-fits-all sort of deal. It is one of those things where, just as relationships.
Absolutely.
Right? You go into a relationship with one person and they have this sort of give and take mentality of a certain way, and you exit that relationship, you go into a relationship with someone else, and it's like a completely different ballgame.
Absolutely.
It is one of those things where it's not the end all be all because it happened for this person this way. There are plenty of people that reach out and they simply need kind of a cosmetic update. But furniture is essentially the same. Things are pretty much staying the same way. There might be some shifting of how it's laid out, but even that scope of work does not necessarily in budget reflect that of someone who is a new homeowner.
Correct.
And they have all of these needs for all of these varying spaces.
Absolutely.
It's definitely not the same thing.
Yeah.
So just anyone who's on the fence or contemplating, well, I have a designer that I know of. I've looked on their Instagram, I've checked their website. They've been a major inspiration to me. However, I had a friend who just got married. They got a house. This designer did their whole house, and she told me how much she paid, and I practically fell out. Well, that's a whole house, girl. That's a little different. So you have to think about those things and really take it into account, because it for sure can surprise you who you come across, which is also why personality is such a selling point when branding yourself. And Derry has a lovely personality, guys. I don't know if you know that, but shameless plug. But when you get to know her, just that positivity about approaching any project of any budget of any kind, that is really the experience that you should be looking to have with people. So when you're seeking out these designers, be sure to take note of how you guys interact, because it is about relationship. And when you go into a relationship with someone who seems a little closed off, or they're reserved, and what you desire in that professional is to push, those barriers of your comfort zone, because you want to break out of that, and that's kind of what you want your space to embody. You have to go with someone who can really exude that, even in how they approach things in general and themselves. It kind of has to match. It's like a healthy balance there.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is.
She's like, oh, you said I was sweet. I'm like, yes,
it
girl,
is.
I did.
It's not only with your consumer, but it's with your employee,
Mm-hmm.
who you hire.
That is true.
I mean, your circle of friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's key.
Right.
It's just key. So, what are we going to, what did we get from this?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go over the key points of
Right.
what we got from this conversation today.
Key points. Number 1, be hands-on. Number 2, be very vocal, in a very polite and justified way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a community of design, and when you're going into that, it is a respectful atmosphere. So definitely, designer-client relationships should
Be
be
open.
built on that. Being
Be
open,
open.
for
Be
sure.
open.
Be open. Always account for your budget. Always have a budget. That's another one.
Yes.
Let's see.
Professionalism.
Professionalism is key for
It is key.
sure.
And we touch on communication.
Mhm.
Always try to communicate not only with your client, but with your subcontractors, with your reps.
Mm-hmm.
Have an open communication.
Subcontractors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Communication is the key to any successful design.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So make sure you're communicating with everybody that's involved in the
Mhm.
process, because I can tell you lack of communication can make something small turn into something
Mhm.
big. So
and then it just tumbleweeds.
Absolutely.
across the thing.
absolutely.
Mhm.
And leave room for a little disappointment,
Right.
right?
Error is always a possibility. It's not a hope, but it is a possibility.
Right.
So be prepared.
Yeah, leave
For
room
sure.
for that, because like I said, it may not be your designer.
Mhm.
It may be a subcontractor that was
Mhm.
supposed to start one day, and his daughter fell sick, or his son
Right.
fell sick, or his wife fell sick, or something happened in his personal life.
It might be natural
Right.
environment.
And he
weather.
probably might be in coming down the street and something happened,
Right.
and we couldn't start the day that we originally wanted to start.
Right.
Be sympathetic to others, the needs of others, actually.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
It is business. Let's
Mhm.
let's treat it as professionally as possible, but yet
Mhm.
still, let's think about life, and it happens, right?
Right.
It things happen that we have no control over.
That is very true. And I think there was something else. That always happens, right? You're thinking, and you're like, yeah, there was something. You hold on to the point, and then it just leaves as soon as it gets silent. Let's see, what was the other thing? Also, do your research, right? Do
That
your
right there.
research. That is key.
That
Whether
right
you are
there.
whether you are a designer or a client, do your research. Whether it's on how many double rubs, not that general clients might know this, but how many double rubs is this fabric over this fabric, or even what exactly is the consultation fee. Why is there a fee? Do I want this? Do I not want this? What colors are better in this atmosphere?
Any professional charges a consultation fee.
Right.
Okay. I got to say that if it is that you are moving forward with anything in your life, be it a consult for design, a consult to design your home, a consult for a lawyer, a consult for, a wedding, a consult for anything, right?
That's true.
We kind of want to keep it professional, and let's value each other's traits. Right? Let's be mindful of each other and value each other's trade.
Right.
Do not assume that this person is so expensive, right? And that's not the person I want to go with, and that's fine. It is okay to go to someone else. Like I said, not everyone is our client, and not every designer is your designer. So if you think that this is too expensive, the consultation is too expensive, be considerate and thank the designer for their time and say, hey, you know what, I appreciate the 30-minute chat and the information that I received, but I don't think I can afford that consultation right now. Right? Because you may call someone else and their consultation might be less. But try not to downplay it or try not to shop our
It's
prices.
not a negative experience, and I will also say that you don't know what you don't know. So if you're not in the industry, you're not an active member, you don't have a trade that you are exchanging for financial profit, you don't necessarily have the proper means cognitively of determining what price point should this be. So just keep that in mind, that if you are not a part of the industry as a tradesperson, you might not be familiar with things that seem totally normal, right? That's just like going in, maybe you've never purchased medicine at a pharmacy, all of a sudden you notice there's a copay and you don't understand. Well, it's because you're not necessarily a part of that, and it is one of those things where, again, do your research. It's very important, and you have to really research things to gain an understanding of why things are what they are and why they happen the way that they happen.
And guys, that's why we're here, right? And that's why we started this discussion, is to help our consumers to get to know more about the design aspect,
Absolutely.
the design process, how better to choose a designer, how to get into the research of when you think about hiring a designer. Ask the right questions. We are here to help you. Right? We are only a phone call away. If you don't know better, you can't do better. So that's we are making it our responsibility to let you guys know what is the steps and the process of hiring an interior designer, and how we can help you better decipher that, I would say, because most of the times you don't know how to figure out what is the best, package, or what is the best service, or what do I need or what I don't need. So we are here to help you with that, and I'm going to allow Tilisha to close as we get ready to go. Our hour is up, and I think it was a very good discussion today. It was a great discussion as well.
I enjoyed it, for sure.
Tilisha is going to close us out.
So in closing out, guys, be sure to stay up with our website, tranquil-designs.com. We will be blogging kind of a Tranquil Reflections of this very Design Decoded conversation. So be sure to keep up with that, our social media, and yeah, as you already know, this is the lovely Derry Washington. My name is Tilisha Harrington, and we hope that you enjoyed the conversation and that you can keep it going. And if there's, again, anything that we can assist you guys with, or even if there's a topic of discussion that you would like to see be featured in our discussions, feel free to leave a comment and we will sift out that. We want you to understand that this is a platform for you and that you will be heard, and that we will do our best to be very transparent about the industry and what really goes down. So have a lovely Wednesday.
Thank you
and
guys for
we'll
joining
see you
us.
next time.